The dining room smelled like imported roses and my mother's disappointment. I stood in the archway of our family's estate, watching crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across marble floors that cost more than most people's homes. The air was thick with expensive perfume and the particular silence that comes before someone says something cruel. My heels, the ones I bought on sale 3 months ago and hidden the receipt for, clicked too loudly as I stepped inside. "There she is," my mother announced, her voice carrying that specific tone she reserved for introducing things she found distasteful but couldn't quite discard. Fashionably late, as always. I was 7 minutes early. 37 people filled the space, all dressed in clothes that whispered wealth instead of shouting it. My Aunt Diane's earrings probably cost more than my car payment. Uncle Richard's watch caught the light like a small sun on his wrist. And there, in the center of it all, was my sister Catherine, 26 years old and draped in confidence and Chanel. She looked at me the way people look at stains. "I'm sorry," I said, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for anymore. It had become reflex. Traffic was Emily. My father didn't look up from his whiskey. "We've set you up over there." He gestured toward the corner. Toward the children's table. The small, plastic-covered table where my cousin's kids were coloring with crayons and fighting over chicken nuggets. "I'm sorry?" The words came out smaller than I intended. "Well, you're bringing a guest." My mother adjusted her pearl necklace, each movement precise and practiced. "And since we don't know anything about him, we thought it would be more appropriate. Less pressure for him, really. We're thinking of his comfort." The lie sat in the air like smoke. Catherine smiled into her wine glass. She posted 3 photos to Instagram already. I'd watched her do it, each one carefully angled to showcase the Tiffany bracelet Daddy bought her last week. #blessed, she'd written. #family first. My phone buzzed. A text from James, outside. "Take your time. I'm here." Something in my chest loosened, just slightly. "He's here," I said. "Well." My mother's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. "Do bring him in. Let's see what we're working with." I found James leaning against his truck, looking up at the house with an expression I couldn't quite read. He'd worn his good shirt, the navy one that made his eyes look like deep water. His hands were shoved in his pockets, and there was a tightness around his mouth that told me he was nervous. "Hey," he said softly, straightening when he saw me. "You okay?" Define okay. He studied my face for a long moment, then reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers were warm. Calloused. Real. "We can leave," he said. "Right now. We can go get burgers and forget this whole thing." God, I wanted to. I wanted to climb into his truck and let him drive us somewhere my last name didn't matter, where the weight of expectations didn't press down on my shoulders like hands pushing me underwater. But I'd promised. And some part of me, the foolish, hopeful part one couldn't quite kill, still thought maybe this time would be different. "It's just dinner," I lied. James looked at me like he could see through it, but he took my hand anyway. The introductions were a slow-motion car crash. My mother's eyes traveled over James like she was calculating his net worth by his shoes. My father's handshake lasted exactly 2 seconds, I counted, before he turned away to refill his drink. Catherine didn't even pretend to care, just gave him a once-over and returned to her phone. "So, James." Aunt Diane leaned forward, her smile predatory. "What is it you do?" "Construction," James said evenly. "Project management, mostly." Commercial buildings. How honest. The pause before honest was surgical. And where did you two meet? Uncle Richard asked, though his tone suggested he didn't actually want to know. Coffee shop, I said. He spilled his espresso on my laptop. And he couldn't afford to replace it? Catherine's voice cut across the room. The silence that followed was made of knives. I offered, James said, his voice still calm, still kind. Emily said her files were backed up. We ended up talking for 3 hours instead. How romantic, my mother said, in a tone that meant the opposite. Now, if you'll both take your seats, dinner is about to be served. She gestured toward the kids' table. I felt James go still beside me. I'm sorry? His voice had changed, just slightly. There was something underneath it now, something with edges. Oh, it's nothing personal. My mother waved her hand dismissively. It's just that the adult table is for family and established partners. You understand. I watched something move behind James's eyes, something dark and dangerous and quickly controlled. Of course, he said quietly. Whatever makes everyone comfortable. He took my hand and led me toward the corner, where my 9-year-old cousin was currently shoving peas up his nose. I had never felt smaller. Dinner happened around us while we sat in its margins. I pushed overcooked chicken around my plate and tried not to listen to the conversations floating from the main table. Catherine's new promotion. Uncle Richard's investment portfolio. My parents' upcoming trip to the Amalfi Coast. The sound of success, of belonging, of everything I'd never quite achieved in their eyes. You don't have to stay, I whispered to James. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in his expression that made my chest ache. Emily, he said softly. I'm not leaving you here alone. My cousin knocked over his juice box. Purple liquid spread across the plastic tablecloth, and I grabbed napkins on instinct, cleaning it up while the adults at the real table laughed at something I couldn't hear. This was my life. This had always been my life. The outsider in my own family. The daughter who didn't quite shine bright enough, didn't quite measure up, didn't quite deserve a seat at the table where decisions were made and love was conditional on performance. Emily. My father's voice cut through my thoughts. A word? It wasn't a question. The study smelled like leather and cigars and old money. My father sat behind his desk, the massive oak one that had belonged to his father and his father's father. My mother stood by the window, backlit like a villain in a film noir. Catherine lounged in the leather armchair, examining her nails. I stood. Close the door, my father said. I did. We've been talking, my mother began, her voice carrying that careful neutrality she used when delivering bad news she'd carefully wrapped in logic. About your situation. My situation? This relationship. She said it like the word tasted bad. With that boy. James, I said. His name is James. Whatever his name is, my father interrupted, he's not appropriate. The words landed like slaps. Not appropriate, I repeated slowly. Come on, Emily. Catherine finally looked up. You have to see it. He's a construction worker. He drives a pickup truck. He probably doesn't even have a college degree. He has 2, I said quietly. Engineering and business administration. He paid for them himself while working full-time. My mother waved this away like it was irrelevant. The point is, you come from a certain background. Our family has a reputation to maintain. Standards. Standards, I echoed, the word hollow in my mouth. We've set up a trust fund for you, my father said, pulling out a document. $5 million. It's yours. But there are conditions. My heart stopped. You end this relationship. You meet someone appropriate, someone from our social circle. Someone who understands our world. He slid the papers across the desk. Sign this, and the money is yours. Refuse, and we'll be forced to take other measures. Other measures? Your apartment, my mother said calmly. The one we co-signed for? We'll be removing our names. Your car payment, we'll stop covering it. The credit card we gave you for emergencies? Cancelled. We're not cruel, Emily. We're giving you a choice. A choice, I whispered. Choose your family, Catherine said, leaning forward, or choose poverty with a man who can't even afford to take you to a decent restaurant. The room spun. $5 million. Financial security. My family's approval, finally, after 28 years of chasing it. All I had to do was give up the only person who'd ever looked at me like I mattered for reasons that had nothing to do with my last name. I need time, I managed. You have until dessert, my father said. Now go back to your guest. I don't remember walking back to the dining room. I remember the sound of my heels on marble, too loud, too fast. I remember the way the chandeliers blurred through tears I refused to let fall. I remember James standing up the moment he saw my face, his hands on my shoulders, his voice low and urgent. What happened? I remember shaking my head because I couldn't speak. And I remember Catherine's voice, bright and cheerful, announcing to the entire room, Emily's been offered $5 million to dump her broke boyfriend. Isn't that generous? The laughter that followed wasn't kind. $5 million? Aunt Diane gasped. My God, I'd dump my husband for that. It's really for her own good, my mother said, her voice carrying over the noise. She's always been so impractical. So emotional. We're trying to help her see reason. Maybe she actually loves him, someone said, and the words were met with more laughter, as if love was the punchline to a joke. James's hands tightened on my shoulders. Let's go, he said quietly. Where? My voice cracked. My apartment isn't mine. My car isn't mine. Nothing is mine. Then we'll figure it out. With what money, James? I have $300 in my checking account. I can't, Emily. He turned me to face him, his hands gentle on my face. Look at me. I did. I don't care about the money, he said. I care about you. We'll be okay. You don't understand. I understand that your family is trying to buy away the first real thing you've ever had. His voice was soft but steady. I understand that they're cruel and manipulative and they've spent your entire life making you feel like you're not enough. And I understand that you're scared. But Emily, his thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You are enough. You've always been enough. Something in me broke. I turned to face the room full of people who shared my blood but had never really been my family. I'm leaving, I said. Don't be dramatic, my mother sighed. I'm leaving, I repeated, louder. And I'm not signing anything. You can keep your money. You can keep your conditional love and your impossible standards and your toxic, suffocating need to control everything I do. I'm done. Emily. My father's voice carried a warning. If you walk out that door, you'll what? Disown me? Cut me off? I laughed, and it sounded broken even to my own ears. You've been doing that my entire life. You just never made it official. Catherine stood up. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I said. But at least it'll be mine. I turned and walked toward the door, James's hand solid and real in mine. Behind us, my mother's voice rang out, you'll come crawling back. You'll see what the real world is like without our protection, and you'll come back begging. I didn't turn around. We walked out into the cold November air, and I felt like I could finally breathe. James drove us to his apartment, a small one-bedroom above a bakery that always smelled like fresh bread and cinnamon. I sat on his couch and stared at the wall and tried to process what I'd just done. I'm homeless, I said finally. You're not homeless. You're here. I'm unemployed. I have no money. My family hates me. My voice was rising, panic threading through it. James, what did I do? What the hell did I just do? He sat down beside me and pulled me against his chest, and I broke. I sobbed into his shirt, ugly and raw and completely undone. He held me through it, one hand in my hair, murmuring things I couldn't quite hear but felt anyway. When I finally quieted, he pulled back just enough to look at me. Emily, he said. I need to tell you something. The seriousness in his tone made me freeze. What? He took a breath. I haven't been entirely honest with you. My heart dropped. What do you mean? My full name, is James Chin. He said it like it should mean something. It didn't. Chin, he repeated. As in Chin Development Group. The world tilted. Chin Development Group. One of the largest commercial real estate companies on the West Coast. Multi-billion-dollar projects. High-rise buildings in every major city. I'd seen their logo on construction sites across the city. That's a coincidence, I said weakly. It's not a coincidence. His voice was gentle. My father founded the company. When he passed 5 years ago, it went to me. I'm the CEO. I stared at him. You're rich, he said quietly. Very rich. I didn't tell you because, he ran a hand through his hair. Do you know how many people have wanted me for what I could give them? How many relationships I've had where I was just a bank account with a pulse? Why are you telling me this now? Because you need to know that when I say we'll be okay, I mean it. Because you just gave up $5 million for me, and you deserve to know that you're not alone in this. And because, his voice softened. Because I love you. The real you. The one your family never saw. And I need you to understand that you're not a burden. You're not homeless. You're not lost. I couldn't speak. I work construction projects because I like being on site, he continued. I like seeing what we build. I drive the truck because it's useful. I live here because, he gestured around the small apartment. Because it's real. Because nobody here gives a damn about my last name. Tears were sliding down my face again, but different ones this time. You let me think, I know. And I'm sorry. But Emily, if I had told you on day one that I was worth 9 figures, would you have believed that I liked you for you? Or would you have spent our entire relationship wondering if you were just another person using me? He wasn't wrong. So what now? I whispered. Now, he said, we make them pay for what they did to you. The lawyer's name was Rachel Kim, and she looked like she'd been born wearing a power suit. Emotional abuse is hard to prove in court, she said, spreading documents across the conference table. But financial manipulation? Control through money? That's different. I don't want revenge, I said. I just want them to leave me alone. What you want, Rachel said calmly, is justice. And sometimes justice looks like consequences. She pulled up a file. Your parents have been using your social security number for various financial maneuvers. Credit cards in your name that you never signed for. Loans you didn't know about. Technically, that's identity theft. I felt sick. There's more, she continued. Your grandmother left you a trust fund when she died. Did you know that? What? $2 million, to be released on your 28th birthday. She looked at me. That was 6 months ago. Your parents have been managing it. According to the documents I've obtained, they've been creative with how they've allocated those funds. They stole from me, I said slowly. Legally speaking, they breached their fiduciary duty as trustees. But yes, they stole from you. The investigator James hired found more. My father's company had been embezzling from client accounts. My mother had been running an unlicensed investment scheme through her social club. Catherine had been committing tax fraud through her boutique marketing firm. And they'd all been so confident that their money and connections would protect them that they'd been careless. Sloppy. We have everything, Rachel said, a week later. The question is, what do you want to do with it? I thought about my mother's face when she offered me $5 million to give up love. I thought about my father's casual cruelty. I thought about Catherine's Instagram posts, still going up daily, showing off her perfect life built on lies. I thought about every time they'd made me feel small. I want them to face consequences, I said. Real ones. Rachel smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The confrontation happened in their lawyer's office. My parents walked in expecting to discuss my change of heart about the trust fund offer. Instead, they found me sitting at the conference table with Rachel, James, and 3 federal investigators. What is this? My mother demanded. This, Rachel said calmly, is your daughter declining to press charges for identity theft in exchange for your full cooperation in several ongoing investigations. My father's face went white. You have 2 choices, I said, and my voice was steady now. Calm. You cooperate fully with the investigations into your business practices. You return every cent of my grandmother's trust fund, plus interest. You sign documents relinquishing all control over any aspect of my life, financial or otherwise. Or, my mother hissed. Or Emily goes public with everything, Rachel said. The identity theft. The embezzlement. The fraud. All of it. And your reputation, the one you care about more than your own daughter, gets destroyed. You're bluffing, my father said, but his voice shook. Am I? I pulled out my phone and showed them the recording I'd made at the dinner party. Every word. Every cruel joke. Every moment they tried to buy away my happiness. This goes viral, I said softly, and you lose everything. Your social standing. Your club memberships. Your business connections. All the things you value more than me. The silence stretched. You ungrateful little, my mother started. I'm done being grateful for scraps, I interrupted. I'm done apologizing for existing. And I'm done letting you make me feel like I'm not enough. I stood up. Sign the papers or don't. But this is the last time you get to make me feel small. They signed. All of it. Catherine tried to text me 3 days later, after the news broke about their legal troubles. I blocked her number. Aunt Diane called to tell me I was tearing the family apart. I hung up. My mother sent flowers with a note that said we forgive you. I sent them back. 6 months later, James and I moved into a house with a garden and windows that let in light. I started my own consulting business. Small projects at first, working with nonprofits and startups who couldn't afford the big firms. I was good at it. Better than I'd known I could be, without my family's voice in my head telling me I wasn't. James proposed on a Tuesday, in our kitchen, wearing sweatpants and holding a ring that wasn't flashy but was perfect. I said yes before he finished asking. We had a small wedding, just friends, people we actually loved and who loved us back. No family. No crystal chandeliers. No performing. Just us. Sometimes I still dream about that dinner party. About the kids' table and the cruel laughter and the moment I realized my family would never choose me. But I wake up next to James, in a house we chose together, in a life we built without conditions. And I realize that losing them was the first step toward finding myself. The crystal chandeliers never looked so cold as the day I walked away from them, and toward something real, something mine, something that sparkles brighter than any inheritance ever could.